Good day, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Boomerang, where we look at how relationships affect how you relate with yourself, with others, and the world around you. So the other day I asked a couple of friends of mine, if something in your life broke, what would you rather do? Replace or repair? And these are some of the responses I got, and I shall read them. I would rather replace because repairing is costly over time. I would rather repair, but if you repair, you will still see the cracks. Or you just get a new piece so that you do not remember the broken one. The other thing that I was told is things do break and have to break in some cases. For example, if you're going to have an egg, you can't eat an egg when it's whole. You have to crack it and cook it so that you can get the nourishment. Somebody else said they'd rather replace and get a better version of the item. Another person said, I would rather repair because there's no guarantee that you'll get the exact same piece if you choose to replace. The last one was, it depends on the sentimental value. How much do I value this item that is broken? If I value it so much, then I choose to repair it. Because even with the cracks, it will still be beautiful to me. Interesting responses. Now, when it comes to relationships, repairing relationships can be very challenging, no matter what caused the rift. Let's face it, it's easier to walk away from challenges in relationships. Or like we saw in the other episode, it's easier to ghost people. So today, I would like us to look at two scenarios of people in relationships who have faced a crisis. Scenario number one. These are stories that I have read on Facebook in a couple of groups that I am in. These are two women who've expressed challenges in their relationship. So look at scenario one. This lady was seeing a nice man. They met and they fell in love. He seemed to be secure financially, maturity was there emotionally, he appeared to be secure. He met this lady and this lady liked him. She is a single mom with a child who is only 3 years old, a daughter to be exact. And when this man walked into their lives, he started bonding with his child, they started going out together, doing things together like they were a family. And the relationship seemed to be going in the right direction. 10 months later, the man was silent. He gives her the silent treatment. She's wondering what's going on. We've been relating well and all of a sudden you're withdrawing. You're not talking to me, I send you messages, you're not responding. I might badger you a little bit. That's when you answer the question, like, what's up? What's going on? Oh, I'm doing ABCD and what have you. So she started sensing that something has changed in this man. We were moving in the right direction. So at some point she confronted him and asked what is really truly going on here. Well, he wasn't too happy to say this. In fact, I think perhaps he was slightly embarrassed, but he said, I have had some considerable thought about this relationship. And I'm having an issue with your 3-year-old daughter. I'm thinking, I would like us to move to the next level, but I cannot take the responsibility of raising this child. It's not fair on me. I'm not the one who came and abandoned this child. So he suggested to her, why can't we have this child taken care of by your sister, who is at least your relative, and you'll be able to see your child? And then we begin a life together and having children together. In fact, he went as far as saying, if you didn't have a child, by now, we would have already proceeded into marriage and would have started our life all over again. This lady gets into a tailspin, confusion, hurt, and I'm trying to understand at what point did this guy change his mind? He's been bonding with this child. Everything seems to be okay. So why is it all of a sudden my child is a problem? Mark you cannot separate me from my child. It's impossible. So what was the point of starting to date me if this was going to be a problem? So what did she do? She came to Facebook, narrated the whole story. I was there, I read it amongst other people. And the only response she was getting is red flag, get rid of him, what, why on earth, who is this? I mean, men. But then I said, let's look at this thing more intently. Because whether we like it or not, there was true love between the both of them. Or at least, let's say from her perspective, she truly loved this man. And if it wasn't such a big thing to her, should not be looking for solutions, asking us, what do I do? What do I do? I feel like I'm going to lose this man. It appears that he's the kind of guy that I've always wanted, and it looked like we were going somewhere, so I am at a loss for words. I am going to lose this man, but he's trying to make me make a decision between my child and himself. What do I do? It's a valid question. It's easier to tell her, walk away, go and try, start again. But then she has to deal with the grief of losing this man, the grief of losing the relationship they had, and the grief of losing the future she had seen with him. She has to go through those steps. And she's trying to prevent that by trying to figure out what to do with this guy. Let's face it, for a man to get to this point, after dating you, creating a scenario or environment where you feel secure with him, and all of a sudden he drops a bombshell, that's irresponsible. There's nothing that can be said that is right about that. But I decided, let us look at this situation even deeper. I shared it with a friend of mine, and I asked him, I went to a man, what would be going on here? Because we as women sometimes don't figure out how men see things. The first thing he asked me is, when that guy got into that relationship, was he sovereign? Think, was he sovereign? What does it mean to be sovereign? It means, did he come into that relationship as himself, understanding who he is, what he wants? That's an interesting question. And I further asked my friend, what do you mean, was he sovereign? Then he proceeded to ask me, were there other stakeholders in this relationship that are not apparent? Were there other stakeholders? I said, what do you mean stakeholders? Could it be his family? Is it that they're discouraging him from getting involved with a woman who is a single parent? Could it be his friends who could also be saying, are you sure you want to take over the responsibility of another guy? Why can't you just go and start all over again? So what could this man be thinking? Saying, I still love him, I still want you, but let's get rid of this baby. Stupid suggestion. But obviously he still loves this woman. So the issue is not whether these two don't love one another, they do. But here's a situation. That's scenario number one. What would you do if you're this lady? This is what I think she should do. She needs to confront him and ask, what is going on? Is there somebody who is influencing you to make this decision? He might choose to answer or not. But holding him to account is very important. His response to that is not necessarily her responsibility. He could choose to just say, I've gone. Or he may decide to go and think about it. We hope that he does. But there's no guarantee. But on the side of the woman, so long as she has gone and stated her feelings and held him to account, then she's done her bit. So that's the way I would see that situation. Scenario number two. This couple are engaged. In fact, they're so serious that they bought a house together. Before they got married, they had a baby. And as you would know, let me say this. When a woman has a baby for the first time, many of us experience something called postpartum depression. And that changes your mood. It changes the way you see life. And honestly, I can say that postpartum depression comes from the shock of your new reality, from moving from a person who was single and free, and now you have this child who is wholly 100% dependent on you. Transitioning from a life when you didn't have somebody, a child to take care of, to now taking care of a child can lead to some form of depression, which is commonly known as postpartum depression. Some women get out of it quickly, others, they struggle with it for longer. So in this situation, this lady suffers from postpartum depression. She has got this new baby and she doesn't have a job. She's not able to take care of herself. But for some reason, her fiancé now has decided he does not want the relationship. And he's also told her that within a few months, he expects her to move out of the home that they bought together. So she's in a dilemma. What do I do? I don't have a job. He wants me to move out. I am struggling to make this relationship work, to bring us back to where we were. Again, she came to Facebook, so this is another story I read on Facebook. And the response has been, oh, red flags, leave him. What kind of a guy does this? God will provide. God will bring you another man. There's always better people out there. How can a man let go of you at such a time? Etc, etc, etc. And that is the entire thread of the comments. But here's the thing. What has changed between the two? Before they had the baby, they were both single people with no responsibility. Now that there's a baby, then their status has changed. Now they have a child that they must take care of. They are parents. Moving from not being a parent to becoming a parent is a change in your identity. And it takes time for people to adjust. I think that this man is reacting not only to this new responsibility, but also the change in his wife's personality and mood due to the postpartum depression. So he's calling for a separation. She's choosing I need to hold on. And it's causing tension and nothing is moving. They're basically stuck. So what would you do if you're in her shoes? This is what I think she should do. But this is my personal view. Separation is good at times. And it gives people time to go and think and contemplate. Is this what I really want? And sometimes letting things go allows them to go and repair themselves and then they can come back. The two of them need to be able to come back wholly, as wholesome people, understanding that not only are they intending to become husband and wife, they are now parents of a new baby. And that has changed. She might be struggling to go back to what they were, but there's no more what they were. Before that, they were individuals in love. Now, they are individuals who are parents. That has changed permanently. So there's no for going back to where they were. It is now embracing the new identity and their new future. And sometimes that requires space. So my advice to this kid would be, take time out. If it is possible for you to move in with a relative, as you deal with the first few months of raising your child and trying to find something that can keep you gainfully employed, that should be your focus. And for this man, he also just needs to go off and ask himself, am I really ready to be in a union with this lady? Am I ready for the responsibility of being a father and a husband? So time out is fine. In both cases, I am not of the opinion that the relationship should be terminated because of some type of misunderstanding. And this draws us to, why are we so quick to terminate our relationships without giving it a fair chance to thrive? And indeed, like we spoke earlier, some things have to break so that you can get the nourishment from them. And relationships do break. At the point they break, there's an opportunity to grow by learning more about one another or just going. And unfortunately, if you go, you remain stuck at this point. You don't learn something else. And you carry the same problem or challenge into another relationship. And again, when you find a serious challenge, you walk away because it's easier to replace. But how many times will you replace? In the end, it will be more costly than trying to repair. So we're getting to the crux of the matter about what Boomerang is all about. There's a lot more that we can discuss about relationships, about how we behave as individuals in relationships. But that can't be covered in a show. And for that reason, I have a program that is a 7-step program towards gaining or achieving wholeness in your life. It's what I call the deep dive. The deep dive covers 7 points. The first one, we're going to learn how brokenness is the heart of wholeness. You cannot achieve wholeness unless we embrace our brokenness. The next thing we're going to learn is we're going to understand how we make connections and how those connections influence our lives. Then we're going to identify how trauma affects your worldview. You're also going to discover the self-conscious emotion that underpins every negative emotion. There is such an emotion. We're also going to review maturity milestones to identify at what point traumatic events happen in our lives. Then we're going to comprehend what grieving is. What is grief and how do we grieve? Finally, we'll be able to give you tools so that you can adopt a sensible attitude towards creating healthy relationships. Do plan to attend, because this is the program that can transform your life if you're willing and brave to do the deep dive. Are you daring enough to find out who you are? Because that is the crux of the matter. Who are you? I invite you to join me on the deep dive. All details will be in the link below. I look forward to seeing you. And in the meantime, may restoration be your portion. Peace out.